Today's webinar is themed on foundations and resources to digitalizing your charity. And this webinar is brought to you jointly by the Commissioner of Charities and Singapore University of Social Sciences. Okay, today's agenda will commence with a welcome address by the Commissioner of Charities, Mr. Desmond Chin, and thereafter, Mr. Jonathan Fu, who is an Associate Faculty and Course Lead at the Singapore University of Social Sciences, will give a presentation on foundations to digitalizing your charity. Many of you are eager to find out how digitalization can help your organization, how to balance digitalization and personalization, how to keep seniors engaged with the digital platform, and what are some of the risks related to digitalization. So Jonathan will discuss them in his presentation. Next, what does digitalization mean for a small charity? Ms Sim Bee Hia, who is the CEO of Food from the Heart, will share her charity story. She'll showcase for you a sustainable and integrated digitalization and digital transformation strategy. We also received many questions from you about the availability of funding and resources for charities, and this is where Ms Cheng Ling, the Senior Assistant Director of National Council of Social Service, will share more about the resources available to you. Ms Tan Li San, the CEO of NCSS, together with our speakers Jonathan and Bee Hia, will join us in a panel discussion to address your questions before we conclude today's webinar. Now with this, I would like to now welcome the Commissioner of Charities, Mr. Chin, to deliver his welcome address. Mr. Chin, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here, and thank you for joining us at this webinar today. I'd like to first thank SUSS, especially Dr. Caroline Lim and the team for putting together this very useful webinar. We have been working with SUSS for a few years now in organizing webinars and courses, and we have always been a pleasure working with them because the content that's delivered is always very useful for our charities. I would like to also thank our distinguished speakers and panelists, Jonathan, Li San, Bee Hia, and Ling, who will be sharing with us later at this webinar. By now, everyone should be very familiar with the term digitalization. With the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, it has forced all of us to accelerate digital adoption in our community and to adapt to this new normal. It has impacted us both at an individual and a personal level, as well as at work level. Quite a number of our charities have already started embracing digitalization to support their operations and their work, which is very good, but I think more needs to be done. This pandemic has directly impacted many of our charities, be it in your ability to raise funds, where I've seen dips in donations, having a shortage of volunteers for some of you, as well as affecting the delivery of services that our charities are targeting at their beneficiaries. So I think we should all start to look at how digitalization can help us to overcome some of these impediments that we are currently facing. We will not go back to the old normal anymore. From here on, it will be a new normal, where we will emerge after this pandemic into a much fuller digital economy. And so we better start to plan for that day to come. While it's not easy to adopt technology overnight, I would like to encourage you to take the first step and to start now. Don't delay. We can start small, but we can scale up according to what we need as time goes by. I thought I would like to share just some examples of how charities have embarked on their digitalization journey. And these charities have started their journey and they have made good progress. So I thought I'll just use some of them as examples to encourage all of us, and I hope you will be inspired by them. We have seen charities using mobile apps to connect to their beneficiaries and to their donors. And so for the past 1.5 years, we have seen this charity starting to deliver services online to adapt to their changing needs. So for example, food charities like the Food Bank uses a mobile app to communicate with both their donors and to provide the updates on quantity and the types of food needed. This has helped improve efficiency in connecting with the donors to the charity, as well as meeting the needs of their beneficiaries. We'll hear more from another food charity, Food from the Heart, later in this session. They have done very effective work in this digital space, and they are worth learning from them. Secondly, our friends from the arts sector were also not spared from the pandemic. Live events, theatre productions were either stalled or cancelled. However, some of these art groups have persisted and emerged stronger by turning to technology to adapt and to reach out to new audiences. For example, Tang Renaissance, which is an arts group which promotes Shanghai Yue opera, adapted by having their rehearsals and recording online. Musicians, performers learned and acquired new skills, such as recording themselves in isolation to music synchronized in the studio. These recordings were then uploaded onto their social media platforms for the public to enjoy and to access. And these have made them to move from a technology platform from where they are right now. Thirdly, many charities have also turned to online crowdfunding platforms and digital campaigns for their donations. In April last year, NVPC released data from Giving.sg that showed there was a drop in donations for over 30% of charities on its platform. But 1 year later, in April this year, NVPC reported that Giving.sg donations had hit a record high of 102 million. This is a 158% increase in donations in this FY as compared to last year's. This shows that many charities have now started using online fundraising platforms to raise their funds. Using technology platforms to raise funds will be the mainstay, I think, for charities moving forward. So we should start getting used to it if you have not already done so. Fourthly, instead of physical fundraising events, we have also seen many charities organizing virtual events to garner and bid for donations. For example, Care Community Services Society had organized a virtual walkathon in March this year to raise funds for their programs and services for their beneficiaries. Virtual walkathons allow people to choose their own route, walk at their own pace and convenience, and report through some tracking app that they use. These are all very innovative measures that our charities have chosen and have moved on in preparation for the digitalization journey. So if charities do not start moving towards digital integration, over time, your presence may be affected and your ability to deliver needful services may be impacted. So it's important that the need for digital transformation is now no longer a question of choice, but one of survival. Digitalization need not be on a big scale. I've said this before. Start small, but reach out to your peers who are already on this journey. Learn from one another so that we can each grow at our own pace, slowly but surely. Don't delay further. Please start today. I would like now to briefly share on some of the resources available. I know we showed a screenshot, a 1.5 minute video. It's full of words. So I'd like to slowly explain what some of these charity funds are available for digitalization. We have the VWO Charity Capability Fund, or VCF, which subsidizes a few things. First, training on the use of social media. And secondly, you can use it to purchase your ICT equipment. And thirdly, you can also help use it to purchase your commercial off-the-shelf software and digital solutions, such as your visitor management systems, cybersecurity requirements, as well as your volunteer management systems. These charities can be funded up to 80% of your total cost, with application caps, of course. So please utilize these grants. The second source of funding will be what we call the Tech and Go initiative. Next, the Tech and Go initiative is a one-stop technology hub to help charities go digital. These will include technical advisories, digital implementation consultancy if we are not sure what to do. You can also use it to fund your digital strategy planning for the long term. And then it can also involve adoption of large-scale specialized ICT solutions if large-scale solutions are what you need. So my colleagues from NCSS will share more on this later, and more details can also be found on the charity portal. So please help to spread the word around to your fellow charities so that all can seize this opportunity and benefit from this funding. Now, lastly, the COC's office has also worked with partners such as the INDA to produce the Charities Go Digital Kit in November last year. This kit will help charities kickstart your digital journey because there's some useful information there for you to be able to read and to adopt. Now, I'd like to thank all of you for your hard work. I know it's been a very difficult 1.5 years for all our charities, but do take the necessary steps. We are slowly adapting and we are slowly coming out of this pandemic. So take the necessary steps to assess what your digitalization needs are, and also to please tap on the available resources to kickstart your journey. If you use the right technology, it can enhance your good work, it can improve your operations, and you can serve your beneficiaries better, because that's the whole intent for why you set up your charity. Thank you very much. So please get started. Help is available, and we're more than happy to stand by you and to walk this journey with you. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, COC, for the welcome address. Let's now welcome Mr. Jonathan Fu, Associate Faculty and Course Lead in SUSS. Jonathan is also the CEO of View Networks. He's a passionate advocate of virtual reality and augmented reality technology, using these technology to engage seniors. His presentation for us is titled Foundations to Digitalizing Your Charity. Over to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Caroline. Good afternoon, everybody. Just reading the newspapers and online news sites today, it really reminds me of how the COVID-19 pandemic, continues to affect all of us. Just as it seems things are getting better in one place, it seems to get worse in another. Just as we find that the population gets vaccinated, there comes a new variant. The only thing that seems to be certain is that the way we do things has changed. And a lot of these changes actually happened even before the pandemic. But in the current environment, it is not just a good idea, but it's become a necessity to digitalize your charity. So this afternoon, what I want to do is I want to share some foundational pieces that can help you start that process. Now, a common mistake first is when attempting to digitalize an operation is to think only of digitizing something. So what's the difference between digitizing and digitalizing? And I find myself already stumbling over the two words. So understanding the key differences between these two terms is really essential when formulating your digital strategy. Now, digitization means to really convert something into a digital format. It usually refers to things like encoding of data and documents, like data entry, simply transferring data from the paper format into a digital format. This is just the first step in the process of digital transformation. Digitalization means to convert business processes over to using digital technologies. So instead of using analog or offline systems such as paper or whiteboard, by using software and processes to drive the operations forward. And only with that can you transform an institution or your business. Now, in a nutshell, digitalization refers to information, while digitalization refers to processes. So we need to consider them both as crucial steps to the change we're looking for, which is digital transformation. So how ready are charities for the digital change? I've got some numbers from the UK. It shows us that 58% of UK charities reported they had no defined digital strategy. Now, many of them have had ad hoc activities to plug the challenges of the past 2 years, but most are still just reacting rather than strategizing. Of those that had implemented some sort of digital function, 75% plan to continue their increased use of digital, but for some, a lack of skills, resources, or budget may be a barrier to this. Most recognize the need to digitalize, but it seems that the barriers still remain. And while they continue to remain frozen, 84% have already reported a decrease in total income during the lockdown, and the downward trend is continuing for many charities there and also here in Singapore. In this short presentation today, I hope to dissect the key challenges, define some of the solutions, and debunk the notion that digitalizing is difficult, if not impossible. So first, we must understand that the digitalization of a charity is not a singular task. It's actually a change of frame, a switch in mindset. It's a cultural shift and that's why they call it digital transformation. The entire team from the C-suite down must believe in the change and understand the values that the organization can benefit. I spoke to Bee Hia previously, and she was talking about how you can start actually with younger staff, those that are more tech savvy. And when the rest see and taste some level of success, they're more likely to jump on the bandwagon and join in this transformation process. The most successful examples demonstrate strong leadership that takes a clear position on the digitalization process, and then let the experts and professional technologists run it. Yes, you will need to engage people who know technology, but that expertise does exist, and you'll hear a lot more about the resources that are available to you this afternoon. You just need to know how to engage them and how to deploy them and trust them to lead the change. And yes, change itself can be a challenge. Later, you'll hear from Food from the Heart team on how this is so crucial in ensuring that the digitalization process is not just piecemeal, but a total strategy, all-encompassing strategy, led from the management and then slowly but actively including and involving all the different groups of people in the whole team. The transformation story of Food from the Heart is really inspiring, but I'll leave Bee Hia and team to share more with you after this. Now, digital transformation really depends on the will of the institution. In today's environment, charities must embrace digital transformation and start taking some positive steps towards it. But obviously, they will face some common challenges, such as the lack of funds and the absence of knowledge. Now, embracing digital transformation requires will, but it also does require funds. I mean, let's be honest. And many charities will find themselves with the challenge of trying to embrace digital on a shoestring budget. How to procure necessary tools, materials, platforms, and training. Others who have a little bit more funds will throw funds at vendors and providers in hopes for a quick solution. But we're talking about a change in culture and mindset, not just a change in the software. So this will take some time and some self-reflection. Don't rush into the process. It's necessary to look into it, but let's not rush into it and just be reactive. In terms of knowledge, there is indeed a gap. Many charities believe that embracing digital requires lots of expert knowledge and training, both of which are considered costly, particularly among the smaller charities. So how do you overcome these challenges? Well, understand first what your needs are and what processes can benefit from being digitalized. Most charities should actually start by taking small incremental steps that can increase fundraising efforts, support donor engagement, improve service engagement, and make day-to-day operations a little bit more efficient. While we recognize the importance of digital transformation, it is not a magic bullet. Not every charity can switch entirely to digital overnight, and many perhaps should not. In fact, many will want to and need to retain this physical presence because this is very important to a lot of your constituents as well. So how do you start this process? Well, later you will also hear from the Tech & Go team who have put together some really good resources that will help many charities start on this process. But in the meantime, let's look at some examples of how you could start to deploy digital in your charity. Well, there are three key areas of digital activities and functions that I'm going to highlight. We're looking at digital fundraising, digital marketing and communications, and digital operations and service delivery. I understand that due to this pandemic situation, many charities are finding that traditional fundraising activities are no longer possible to organize. You can't have big events, you can't get sporting events, you can't get auctions going. But there are some digital alternatives. COC has already mentioned some, and I've got some other examples here to share as well. Now, there are online events, digital sporting events, optimized donations, as well as the approach to cashless technologies. Now, online fundraising events are an obvious first step to overcoming the current safe distancing measures and still maintain some familiarity with traditional physical events. This is actually a very good way to start the process of getting into digital, kind of a lower hanging fruit. St. John's Home for Elderly Persons organized a virtual charity dinner last October and raised more than 320,000 through the event that saw gourmet meals home delivered to an audience that watched a live stream performance online. You can consider using a combination of internet live streaming with communication platforms like Zoom or Google Meets to reach out to large audiences in the comfort and safety of their own homes. Performances and guest appearances are still possible, and there are many mechanisms for the collection of donations and contributions online. In fact, instead of a simple large annual event, the more consistent approach of digital engagement on a quarterly or even bi-monthly basis could be more effective, and this can be very effectively and efficiently done online. Sporting event fundraisers have also gone virtual with digital sporting events. The Parkinson Society, Singapore's annual outreach event, Move to Beat Parkinson, has been ongoing since April this year and ends in a few days. There's a bit of an extension of the deadline. And it's a virtual charity run, asking individuals and groups of 2 to 5 people to complete certain distances within the activity period. And beyond the participation fees, runners can also set up their own online fundraising page in support of the society. The London Marathon, which is one of the largest sporting fundraisers in the world, they raised £66.4 million in 2019. While they managed to raise 11 million for charity so far in its virtual form, the 2.6 challenge is what it's called. It encourages participants to choose any activity they like, from running 2.6 kilometers or holding an online workout with 26 friends, anything with 2 and 6 in it, and together raise funds for the event. And the funds will be distributed to UK charities who are affected by COVID-19. Optimize donations. It's really vital to get your digital infrastructure right. Charities also need slick websites that provide a clear journey for both the users who need to access support and to enable easy donations. Now, without optimized donation websites, website pages for one-off payments or for direct debits, charities are going to miss out. So you need to be able to engage your donors online. When the Alzheimer's Society in the UK worked on improving the donor journey, it researched online browsing habits and reactions and created a tailored campaign-specific donor journey with different payment options. And this led to a 73% increase in donation and conversion rates up from 22% to 65%. So understanding your donors is one thing, understanding how and where they are comfortable to donate is something else. And prior data can help you understand this information and help you design these processes. Cashless technology. Many of us understand this concept, and even the elders in Singapore are being encouraged to pivot to a cashless society. Now, this is no different for the charity sector, and it is today a necessity. Utilizing contactless payment when collecting, especially since collecting cash is not COVID secure, is a fast and easy way to boost income. The National Volunteer and Philanthropy Centre has taken the lead with Giving.sg. It is currently waiving all transaction charges until March of next year, and has helped charities collect more than 300 million to date. In March this year, they also piloted an e-flag day for charities, where a charity can send a QR code to donors on WhatsApp, and donors can then give a donation using PayNow and can also forward the QR code to friends. So, all these terms, WhatsApp, PayNow, Giving.sg, these have all become very much common and regular terms in the industry. So whether you're ready or not, your donors and volunteers are. 87% of Singapore households have computer access, and Singapore's mobile penetration is 148.8%, meaning Singaporeans carry an average of 1.5 mobile phones a person. Look, more than how many, 200-300 of you today are online watching this session, and you are among the 91% of Singaporeans who have access to the internet. So research has found that most Singaporeans today get their news and information from the internet. And in fact, if you don't have an internet presence, you basically do not exist. So another key digitalization function is digital marketing and communications. Your online brand and persona are crucial to your success. How you're perceived is by what people see of your online presence or not. So let's look at branding and messaging, social media, and marketing automation in this area. Now, a good website ensures that your mission and vision are correctly expressed and understood. Keeping your audience updated and aware of your activities is very crucial. Use the online platforms to inform and update. This ongoing engagement ensures you build a relationship with your constituents. A website that is not updated or showing events and activities from 2 years ago gives an impression of an institution that is not doing anything. You know, for my own corporate website, I ensure that every event I speak at or participate in, I take a photo or a screen grab and update my website to inform people of what I'm doing. So I'm actually going to do a screen grab now. Smile. Okay, very good. So an example to look at would be the Doctors Without Borders website, at doctorswithoutborders.org. Now, this is an excellent example of a website that clearly states the vision and mission of the organization. News reports and stories are updated every 2 to 3 days, sharing the activities and the challenges of the organization. There's a very, very clear call to action for donations, and they basically have a link to a page that enables people to come in for one-time payments or ongoing commitments with a very clear tagline that says, "Help save lives, donate now." Now do the same with your social media. Just having an account on Facebook or Twitter is not good enough. You must have a digital content strategy. A social media account or a channel on YouTube is like having a child. You need to feed it with content. If not, it dies and your audience will die with it. And you can't have that when you're talking about donors and volunteers. Here are some ideas of what you can do on social media. First, you can post interactive content to encourage engagement. Now, interactive content is a type of content that requires the audience to do something other than just passively watch or read. So get them to fill up a form, fill up a survey, ask them to ask for their opinions, get them to participate in activities. Secondly, you can include hashtags to increase your reach. Branding your nonprofit's social media content with a hashtag can increase your organic reach because it allows the content to be found in native search. 3, use strong visuals to drive website traffic. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, and seeing a needy child beats any long story about the child. So use visuals that can help communicate your message. Keep things fresh and current. Check in daily and respond to questions. Keep the communication channels open. This engages the community, and that's what you need to do. You need to build on your community. 5, make it easy for followers to donate, just like Doctors Without Borders, or use giving.sg. 6, plan your content. Schedule social media content in advance, not just in a haphazard way. Do it every Friday or Saturday. People are creatures of habit, so they like things that are scheduled, they like things that are regular, and they will come back for things on a regular basis because you are building loyalty when it comes to content. And of course, the final part is to measure the effectiveness of your strategy. And you can do this by using data from native platforms, such as Facebook Insights, Instagram Insights, Twitter Analytics, Pinterest Analytics. Get the data, study the data, and see how successful your plans and strategies are going. Always monitor that process. When it comes to marketing automation, this is really about regular email sequences combined with online advertising, and this can help support stewardship. Now, Client Earth, what they did was they used social media advertising along with pay-per-click online ad buys to engage support via a petition and email sign-up to share convincing information sequences before asking for a donation. So understanding your market enables you to design campaigns and to use technology to inform, to impact, to evolve, and then to impact your followers. So it's not just sometimes about asking for a donation, but building up interest, building up involvement before you throw the donate button and the donate question. The third digitalization area I want to talk about is digital operations and service delivery. There are many such operations, softwares, and solutions available. These are the same types of systems used by many companies and corporations for human resource management, finance, logistics, client management systems. After this session, Food from the Heart will be sharing with you how they've used both off-the-shelf as well as customized solutions and apps to meet their operational needs. And I think their example of how they've actually combined the use of it and engage the industry is an inspiration and something that we can all learn from. As I mentioned in my earlier examples, including social media management, data analytics and management are another technology that needs to be understood and we are able to get instant feedback from a lot of the data. So this is what technology has enabled, a two-way street. As we do things, we are able to get feedback immediately. And understanding this feedback is going to be very crucial in allowing us to respond to how successful our strategies and activities are in the digital space. So understanding your operational and engagement data can help you streamline your strategies and operations, and also at the end of the day, increase your income. But the one technology I want to highlight today is blockchain. Now, it is a technology that has big implications for the charity sector by helping ensure transparency and inclusivity. Now, blockchain is essentially a decentralized electronic database of transactions, which is stored and managed across a peer-to-peer network instead of a central database managed by a third party. Now, this open source structure ensures that no single party can control or influence individual transactions. This therefore creates greater transparency, as for example, it allows for tracking of payments from donors to beneficiaries and gives everyone greater confidence in how the money is being put to good use. On the left of the screen here, you'll see Alice. Alice is a platform built on the cryptocurrency Ethereum that is able to distribute and execute code, which means that while you can easily transfer digital currency to another person or institution, you can now also build in conditions in which it should be paid, meaning you have control where the money is being spent. Your donation does not end up in a generic pot, which is distributed to a generic list of charities or purposes. You have control where it lands. And while we're on the subject of cryptocurrency, the Red Cross and Save the Children charities in the UK now actually accept Bitcoin payments as donations as well. On the right-hand side of the screen, Singapore headquartered InfoCorp. They run a blockchain-based platform called FarmTrack that aims to bring inclusivity through inclusive financial services to the livestock industry by tokenizing livestock. So now what it means is that smallholder farmers in places like Myanmar and Rwanda, right, are now able to access financing for their businesses using their livestock as collateral. So it's not just about access, not just about having things that are clear and transparent, but it's also getting access in the first place to people who previously could not get access. So there are a whole range of exciting and inspiring stories of charities who are riding and conquering the digitalization wave. But if you are still early in the game, how can you start? So here are some quick tips that I have. Firstly, think creatively. Sit together with your team and take a blank piece of paper and think creatively. Be brave and don't discount any ideas. Everything starts from knowing what you're doing and putting it down on paper. Think digital. Digital is going to be really a big part of everything we do now, and the pandemic has accelerated our digital transformation in terms of fundraising in other areas. We've learned to adapt quickly and use tools like video conferencing, which we are using today, and we can look at more use cases and implement them. Adapt existing. Now you are your own subject matter expert and you've been successfully doing it in the past, but only by traditional means. Look at what you have done that can be digitized and digitalized and adapt them. Update your website resources. If you usually raise money or share information face-to-face, go online. Engage your team. Now, this is very crucial. If you have a team working remotely on fundraising, digital campaigns, marketing, or any other activities, it's important to keep everyone engaged daily through digital tools like Zoom or WhatsApp and help ensure they can create flexible work settings at home. Build a digital culture until it becomes a habit and second nature. And of course, start experimenting. We can plan all you want, but nothing happens till you try. Start simple with a one-time online event. With every success, build up the next project and then the next. And when you're ready, draw out that master plan. While we are all talking about the wonders of digitalization, I do also want to point out that as you enter the world of digital, there will be with it its associated dangers and considerations. We may be carrying numerous mobile and data sucking devices, everywhere we go, but not all users are truly in control of their devices. In fact, many of us are controlled by our devices instead. So digital literacy, it's having the skills you need to live, learn, and work in a society where communication and access to information is increasingly through digital technologies like the internet, social media, mobile devices. Just access, however, does not mean you're doing it correctly or are protected from the dangers it can offer. Ethics in digital raises concerns such as clickbait and fake news. Don't you hate it when you see something like a juicy headline or an interesting picture, you click on it only to be brought to some sales or investment website? Now, this is clickbait. What about fake news? Can we trust everything we read on the internet? While we may dislike this ourselves, when we become content producers and we start to use the internet to market or brand our organization, we must also not fall prey to being creators of such information. It can be tempting to add color to reports and stories, but building trust with your constituents is the most important thing. And any information you create digitally needs to be honest and trustworthy. When you start planning a digital strategy, content will be at the center of this strategy. And the moment you start creating content, you also start creating IP or intellectual property. And when you publish anything on the internet, you are a publisher. When you post any videos online, you're a broadcaster, and you'll be bound by the laws of the country you're in. I can spend 3 hours talking about media IP, but really the key message is to respect other creators' rights as much as you want others to respect the rights from the content that you create. Seek permission when using other people's digital materials, because you will find that there will be situations where you'll need to access materials to put into your own digital space. And finally, the PDPA and DPTM. The PDPA is the data protection law that comprises various rules governing the collection, use, disclose, and care of personal data, while the DPTM is the enterprise-wide certification for organizations to demonstrate accountable data protection practices. The DPTM will help businesses increase your competitive advantage and build trust with your customers and stakeholders. Now, these are basically there to guide you along the path of managing data the correct way. So these are really the fundamental pieces that I wanted to share on digitalization. But I wanted to end this presentation today with sharing an initiative that I'm personally involved in. I believe that in this process of digitalization of charities and pretty much our everyday lives, we must be inclusive and believe that every one of us can contribute to this transformation. I'm the co-founder of the Digital Institute, and we are a social enterprise that believes in enabling the older workers with digital skills through micro-learning and then deploying them on digital micro jobs. So we're actually saying the elderly do not have to be beneficiaries. They can themselves be contributors to this transformation process that we're in. We're basically building now an army of mid-career and older digital workers who are more than capable to help others in their digitalization process. So we hope that this army will be available to help the charities in your digitalization process as well. When and as all of you digitalize your charities, do remember that it's not a silo activity. Include everyone in your team, in your community. Some are more ready, some are less. but it doesn't matter how old they are. This is the new digital norm. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we have our next speaker, Ms Sim Bee Hia, who is the CEO of Food from the Heart, and she will share with us her digitalization story. Jonathan mentioned Timothy. Timothy won't be speaking, but only Ms Sim will be speaking because Timothy will be supporting Bee Hia from the background. But let me give a quick introduction about this Food from the Heart. Food from the Heart is a charity with IPC status that feeds the needy through its food distribution programs. It was established in February 2003 by an Austrian couple who was then based in Singapore. And today, Food from the Heart is one of Singapore's foremost independent food charity that's devoted to alleviating hunger through distribution of food in a sustainable manner and making a significant impact in food waste reduction. So how can a small charity with limited manpower introduce digitalization and digital transformation? We hear some of the foundational principles and some of the foundational resources. Now, nothing beats hearing from Food from the Heart and hearing from them what are some of the priorities that they have to put in place and what are some of the trade-offs. Ms Sim, please.
An introduction to everyone. I'm Bee Hia, Food from the Heart CEO. Tim is the Senior Manager for IT, and without him, for the last 3 years, we would not have been where we are today. So he's here with me at the session, and we can take questions later, and he can always help me with some of the answers later. I'll go through a little bit about who we are as Food from the Heart. Next one. Okay, we're 18 years old, as what Dr. Caroline Lim has said. We feed the hungry. Our mission is really to alleviate the hunger, in Singapore by providing reliable, consistent, and sustainable food support. I think in Singapore, you'll find that a lot of people do give food to the people in need, but sometimes it's an ad hoc, Christmas you give, 7 months you give, but we are talking about reliable, consistent, and sustainable food support. And we have two main pillars. We started off collecting surplus unsold bread from bakeries, and then sending it over to homes and to our partnering centers to feed the needy the next day or that very evening. So we started off minimizing food waste and feeding the hungry. So we have two pillars, which I've listed there on the slide. Sometimes they do cross path, like for the bread program, we collect and we feed the needy, but sometimes they don't, because we also believe in donating right and giving better. Okay, next one. Okay, this is actually the footprint, the actual footprint of Food from the Heart, island-wide. So this is an example of the tool that we use, Digitalising, where we actually put our footprint on the island where we are. So we actually list our partnering bakeries. We actually list Food from the Heart's address, our two community shops. We also list our partners for the community food pack. We list our schools for the school goodie bag. So actually a map like that would actually show up who are the people who are supporting for Food from the Heart. But we feel that this is something, I personally felt that this is something that some of the charities may be able to use it as well. It's free. If you ask me how do I do it, I don't know. It's the younger staff who did this. And it is really a low threshold for us to use. These are all available on the net as well. So we just wanted to show an example and the scale of Food from the Heart's work. So we distributed actually $6.35 million worth of food in 2020. And we actually packing 9,500 bags every month now. Our number of beneficiaries last year was about 53,700. So that's the scale of what we do. And the map actually helps us to do routing as well, if we want to move from a point to another point. So this is something applicable to other charities. You have beneficiaries in a particular block, and you want to route, how your volunteers can be assigned duties. This is something that is quite helpful to you. Okay, next one. Okay, so what we have digitized and what we have digitalized. So we are a food charity. and we actually distribute food. So we distribute food through the community food pack, school goodie bag, and all that. So we have digitalized the community food pack. We have done the digital part for the community shop as well. So our shop, volunteers who man the shop has access to the shop. We give them remote access, and after their volunteer hours are over, they will not have access to the place. So that's in the picture there. We also created our own beneficiary card for our beneficiary management system. And it's just a printing machine together with a computer. And then we create QR codes for all our beneficiaries. We now have a food donations and warehouse system where we actually use a device similar to a phone, where we actually scan every food item that comes in. In the past, this was all paper and pen. Then we have a volunteer and donor management system, where to us, a donor may be a volunteer may be a donor. And we decided to sort of interface this so that we actually could recognize each for their role in Food from the Heart. Then, of course, on the corporate side, finance, HR, also data management. So we want to understand how our beneficiaries consume food, what is the kind of food that they need, what is popular with them, and all that comes back to our data for us to analyze and manage, and for us to chart future directions. Fundraising, Food from the Heart raises every dollar, and we make full use of online platforms, social media, Instagram, Facebook, website, they are all there. We have a volunteer sign up portal as well on the website itself. And for social media, we also engage in SEO, SEM, where we optimize the search engine, and we also tap into Google Ads, FB apps. We also use other apps that we could use to actually sort of identify the group of people we want to send a message to. So some of this we can share later, but I'll just move on to how we did this. Okay, next one. Okay, this looks like a complicated slides. If you look at it, there are very different layers of it, right? So we have the functions part of it, where we talk about managing food, inventory, warehouse, fundraising, finance, HR, volunteer management, and of course, the reports that comes with that, right? Then on the program side, we have the distribution of food, beneficiary management, partners management, or different programs, the bread run and all that. So from this information, we're talking about the inputs, the information that we draw when we design the platform or we design the system, but ultimately that's the input, but it will also need the reports. So whenever we design something, we are looking at what is the information available for us to retrieve, to get to input in, and then what is the outcome, what's the output, which is the reports. And then to tie this together, we have the technical systems, the processes, which is for donations, we run through our website, volunteer sign up portal through our website, payment gateways. Just now I saw a question about the banks and, you know, how do you set up online payments? So you actually need to work with the banks on the gateways. Donor and volunteer management, we are using Salesforce, but we're not using the entire Salesforce. We're actually tweaking parts of the modules of Salesforce for our use. Food donations and warehouse is Odoo system. Again, it is a off-the-shelf modules, but tweaked and customized for our use. Delivery system is tied to food donations and warehouse. Food inventory system is also tied to the delivery, the entire in and out of the food movement. Then we have the finance cloud-based system, Zero. And of course, the food distribution, we actually tap on beyond Odoo, which is a private platform. We also work with GovTech for supply airline. Yeah, okay. So, and then we have, with all this data, we need to manage the data and we need to analyze that. That forms our FFTH database. So this actually, if you look at it, there are many layers. The four central boxes are the different layers. The red ones, the information and reports, processes, data management, analysis is another layer. And then the yellow one, the website, the technical part of it is another layer. And it's about how you integrate all the layers together. Okay, so there's no one size fits all. Every charity has its own starting point and the problems that you need to solve. but the systems, some of the systems, when we started off, before that, we always had systems, but the systems don't talk to each other. So you have DAF, you have Salesforce, but they don't talk to each other. We have a Miro system for the like a supermarket system, but it doesn't talk to the delivery side. So it is important for all the systems to really be able to talk to each other. And then you need to recognize the links and really connect the dots. So always remember, each system doesn't exist in isolation. There must be a purpose for each item that we are using. Okay, next one. Okay, our profile. Okay, why I would want to share this, next slide, team. Okay, why I want to share this is that we really want to stress that we started off no different from any other charities. And I think a lot of you would see our profile, you're very similar to us, we are very similar to you. We have a board, we have a professional team, we have the beneficiaries, the volunteers, and of course the financials, right? So our board, 10 of them, professionals, businessmen, financial advisors, they're all in their own right, very successful. Mid-40s to early 80s, gender mix, 8 males, 2 female. For the team, professional team, we have the very young, 20 plus. Sometimes we get the interns who are even younger. And the oldest staff we have is actually 68 years old. Gender mix, we have more female than males. And literacy level for the team, we have from secondary school to tertiary level. But the IT department is just Mr. Timothy Lai, whom you can see, and plus 0.5 head count. So basically, we don't have what we call an IT department. It's actually just a 1 plus 0.5 head count. Beneficiaries, these are the numbers that we look at. We serve elderly, needy families. We have welfare homes, halfway houses who work with us as well. So altogether, we support about 53,700 beneficiaries. Volunteers, every day we have morning 1 shift, afternoon 1 shift, and in total, more than 10,000 volunteers would pass through our doors every year. Okay, where do these volunteers come from? Corporate, schools, organizations, individuals. And I'm sure this is very representative of a lot of the charities who are here with us today. Financials, our operating expenses is about 2.5 million. This excludes food purchases. It excludes donation in kind as well. We don't receive regular government funding. Of course, last year we all got our JSS, mature staff subsidy and all that. We do get that. But primarily we tap on our care and share matching fund, which we still have balance. We're trying to maximize the usage of the funds. We always tap on tote board matching grant. We also apply for President's Challenge funding. We also go for bicentennial fund. So we are no different from you. And we want to share this because we think it's important for you not to be deterred by the size of the charity, your manpower. There's always solutions out there depending on what you're looking for. Okay, next one. How did we get started? Okay, we actually got started many years back already, but the systems sort of don't talk to each other. So there were a little bit of hiccup here and there. We managed to still do our work, but we could do better. So the last 3 years, we actually had moved quite a big distance in the last 3 years. Firstly, is to identify pain points. I think there's an importance to distinguish between itch and pain. If it's itchy, it's not fatal, but it's very irritating. Every day you will be itching about it, right? Painful, they are really the pain points that we really need to resolve quickly, right? So first is really identify what are the problem statements, and is it a common problem that is a problem that affects many sections in your team, that is not unique to only one section. And then also keep your ears open. How many staff, volunteers, beneficiaries complain about it, right? That's how painful it is. So for us, as an example, we realized that actually beneficiaries needed to identify us. We needed to identify beneficiaries. And we came up with a solution is to get a beneficiary card, to give all our beneficiaries a food from the heart card. But creating a card for no purpose doesn't seem common sense to us. So we decided to tap on this card that we wanted, to put in the QR code, and then use this QR code for us to then attach the data and information that when we use the beneficiary card, to go back to all the other data that we wanted to collect, and to all the other processes that we need. Okay, so the second point is really starting small. What is the simplest and most likely to succeed challenge to tackle? Take that baby step. So for example, if you look at your staff, even our own staff as well, even for me, I do know Excel, but I think the people who excel in Excel is actually the finance people. But the finance people may not really know how to use Word. The people who use PowerPoint may not exactly know how to use Excel. So this is really the simplest first baby step, is to really send people for courses. And these are very easily available. And once they realize that, using such simple tools can actually allow them to do their work faster, more effective, people will start to buy in. Reach for, low-hanging fruits. So who buy in the easiest? Who has the skills to start and to succeed? So for us, we actually look at the middle level staff who has a certain level of literacy, who has a certain level of technical skills in terms of maneuvering around the computer. And that's how we actually identified them. So it's also giving them ownership. Sometimes when the interns come in, we do give small projects to interns for them to work on. And you will actually see the results quite quickly for such projects. Okay. And then we need to, we stay very pragmatic. What works? Does it make sense? Is it free of charge or does it need a budget? So like when we work with Supply Airline, short form called Sally, this is GovTech's tool. And I think all of you have used it if you had went to collect your mask or if you've gone to collect your sanitizers from the CCs. That is the app that they scan your IC and use it. So it was there available, and we actually connected with GovTech. In actual fact, I connected with GovTech through LinkedIn. And from there, we actually spoke about how we can tweak Sally to suit our purpose, to read the QR code instead of reading the IC barcode, right? So we have a shared mission about getting it more efficiently done. And that's when GovTech also came on board. And it was FOC. And they have promised us that it will be open source and we need not worry about it 5 years later. Okay. So be clear of the deliverables. What do you want to solve? Go back to the question, go back to the problem statement. So in conclusion, it's just think big, start small. When you start small, you don't just think small, you really must think big. How does that small piece of puzzle fit with everything else? Okay, next one. Okay, our roadblocks and challenges, as with every journey, there's always problems. So what are the problems? The first problem we had was defining the problems. It's not easy to identify a problem statement. You have the itch, you have the pain, you have the ache, and you really need to sit down and really define the problem. You need to stay focused. Second roadblock was really connecting the different platforms and the app, making some sense of it. How do you reach the ultimate goal? So therefore, every tool actually has a purpose. And you cannot just create a tool or use a tool because the salesman pitched to you that this is very useful, right? You must come back to your own needs. So planning resources, including manpower, budget, time, and effort. In actual fact, manpower and budget can be planned, but I think time, setting aside time and effort to stay committed is something that many of us would forget because something else comes to your table, you need to fight the fire. There's a deadline, there's a board meeting, you need to prepare agenda papers. And therefore, sometimes time is being taken away to attend to other things. So it's really about setting aside time and effort to stay committed to your cause. Well, not everything goes smooth. Sometimes you decide on a particular program or system, and then you realize that it's wrong midway. It doesn't matter. Really, you just need to reboot the system. If you use a digital technical term, is to reboot the system, review, replan, and restart. So it's really about setting milestones and staying the course. It's really about perseverance. Okay, next one. So some critical factors to a smooth digital journey. And this is something that There are, of course, many factors that contribute to a successful digital journey, but I've just extracted some key ones. I think the very first one is the bold leadership and vision. Firstly, the captain, the leaders, the board members, the C-suite, or even the manager who is taking care of this, we must really learn to chart the directions and then ensure resources are there to allow that digital journey. But very importantly, leaders must learn to let go. Let the technical people, the professional people who are familiar with technical solutions to take the lead. I have to admit here that I'm actually a digital dinosaur. I'm not born in the generation where teaching all this is part of the school curriculum, right? So I have a LinkedIn tutor amongst my younger staff. So Timothy is also the person I go to, and therefore it's really about letting go, not to sometimes when I don't show something, and if I think I know something, I may actually affect the entire outcome itself. So it's about learning to let go, but staying the course, making sure that the team moves in the right direction and the resources come in to help to smoothen some of the challenges. Okay, getting the team to embrace change. I think this is something Jonathan has touched on as well. Just now I've shared the profile of Food from the Heart. We have the 20-something to the 60-something. We also have some who are more literate than others. Some are savvy in other different things. So it's really about getting the team to embrace change, having discussions, sorting out the problem statements together, looking at what we want to achieve, what's the goal, getting everybody together is really important. So this getting together is not just the staff, because some of the systems that we're using also affects our partners. It also affects beneficiaries. It affects donors, affects volunteers as well. So it's really about staff, volunteers, partners, donors, all embracing the change that you want to implement. Okay, tackling fears and anxieties. Do read behind the resistance of change. Sometimes it's because there's a lack of skills, lack of confidence, lack of know-how, and hence there's the fear. And the leaders who are championing the journey must be ready to be patient, to explain, to sayang people along the way, to just ease that anxiety, and hence you will remove the obstacle as well. Involvement of the end user. So if we are now going into HR where we are bringing on a program where staff can apply for leave and off on a digital platform, right? So the thing is that when you choose a program, it cannot just be benefiting the HR person, and then the rest of the team finds it so frustrating every time they want to apply for leave or medical leave or childcare leave. So it is important to get the end user in the process, for them to give feedback and to share their pain points. By involving them, you actually get a better product at the end. And because they have given their feedback, they also buy in when they come to the point when they have to use the system. And of course, getting the right people. And Food from the Heart is very blessed to have Timothy Lai here. Please don't poach him. Okay, he it's about being sufficiently familiar with what are available in the market, what are the products there that's available for us to use, to test it out, to get online reviews before we actually embark on it. So that is really important, that we don't because when you actually have a salesperson who pitch to you, they are pitching their product. They are not solving your problem, but they are pitching their product. So that's just something that I would want to share would be the leaders need to be patient, and it must be end user centric as well. Okay, some key considerations. Next one. Okay. The first point, it must work and not create more work. And I think that not creating more work is something that some of you would probably will probably be now smiling behind your mask, or behind your Zoom screen, because some technical solutions does create more work. So if you are driving this change, just remember it must work, but it mustn't create more work. It may have more work at the start in order to input some of the information, but subsequently it should work for you and work for the charity. So for example, we actually had our computer, the community food pack program, and with the Food from the Heart beneficiary card, our partners just need to scan the card, and then that data, we actually empower partners to have access to that dashboard, and they can actually see the collection rate as well. So that's something that we did. So getting your money's worth, don't just look at the immediate returns. It may cost you 40,000 now, but that 40,000 is being used to make your work easier for the next 4 to 5 years. So if you have to convince your board of it, really work down the numbers, 4 to 5 years, 50,000, 1 year is about 10,000. And if you divide it by 12 months, it's less than 1,000 a month. And it saves so much more man hours. So it's really about getting your money's worth, and don't look at just the immediate returns. Okay. And there's always the opportunity cost. The number of man hours you save would have made that. If you either pay the manpower or you actually digitize, pay the system, and then you make your work much easier after that. Okay. Third point, look for what is in the market that can be easily adapted. So we actually look at modules like Odoo. They have different modules, and in COVID, it had helped us. Odoo is actually based in Hong Kong, so we are in Singapore, but they managed to actually help us create a system, customize their off-the-shelf modules to suit our purpose. Okay, keep it simple. Don't try to do too much things. Don't try to have a system that solves all your problems, because it doesn't happen that way. So do keep it simple. Firstly, you will see success first, and you can always have a phase 2, phase 3. It doesn't mean that's the end. Actually, once you digitize, right, it's just the start of your work. It's not the end. When you actually finish, there's no finish for digital journey, because every 1-2 years or every few months, there are new things that come out in the market, and you always must be really on top of it, right? And then we're talking about future-proof. What do I mean by future-proof solutions? If you were to work with a system, a provider, a vendor, it may be a subscription base, and then you must be very careful whether will you be charged more as you scale it up. So you may get a programming, and they may tell you, okay, for this number of scale, is this sum. 3 years later, as you scale it up, and they, it's an exponential in your cost, then that's not very effective. So always, when you actually get a vendor, always ask about future costs. You need to future-proof your solutions. So when we work with GovTech, we actually ask GovTech whether, if the person move, would the next person not want to work with us? And GovTech has assured us it's going to be open source. And this is where what I meant by future-proof solutions. Data protection, I think this is something that Jonathan has touched on as well. Firewall, antivirus, these are already modules out there. It's just about getting something that's strong enough for your setup, that is cost effective as well. Just a point as well, whatever you post, be very careful as well that your logo may be used by other people. Food from the Heart had an incident where a Malaysian casino group actually quoted several local Singapore charities as their beneficiaries, and they had these lovely ladies when you actually click them. So you have to put in place system or some kind of checks where all this will pop up, and then the comms team can actually look at it, and then you actually really protect your logo, protect your photos, and all that. So there's always those liners, the terms and conditions and all that is on the website. Do remember to put all those as well to protect yourself. Okay. Tangible deliverables, really beware of sales pitch. You must know what you want and what you need, and that will really help you in shaping your digital solutions. Okay, beyond all these considerations, and beyond, of course, what we talk about, effectiveness, efficiency is necessary to move digital. That's the usual statements, right? But what is really important is the fringe benefits, and the fringe benefits I'll just share with you is breaking the cycle. Once you start, you break the cycle, then you start to get better and better and stronger, right? The branding. When people see you on digital and you're professional, you portray the image of professionalism, you're more effective, you're more credible, and that will actually help you get donors, volunteers, patrons on board. Staff also feel good. We feel proud to be part of a team that's professional, that we are embarking on a journey. We are going into uncharted waters, and we succeed in it, and the staff will feel good, and that will also help to retain staff as well. Favorable volunteer experience. For example, we have gotten the devices to scan the food items as they come in. So this is done by volunteers. In the past, it was paper and pen. And they were very impressed. They were able to run it like a supermarket checkout counter, scan, and you'll hear the beep beep sound, and you'll see the lights, and everything goes into the system. It is a very favorable volunteer experience, and that would definitely guarantee you returning volunteers. So because we don't want to lose volunteers, and that is one sure way of getting them to come back, if not for them to share with their friends, their family, their colleagues, and then you actually get new volunteers as well. So always remember, digital transformation always has tangible and intangible returns, and some of these returns you may not see it now. It may be 1-2 years down the road. Okay, so I'll just leave you with 2 thoughts. For digital transformation, people management and not digital solutions is the key to going digital. It's really about managing your staff, managing the people who are going to run it, managing the volunteers, the stakeholders, the partners. It's really the key to going digital. And digitalization need not be rocket science, nor does it need to be expensive. So I'll end my sharing here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bee Hia. Thank you so much for the very insightful presentation. I hope we all appreciate now that digitalization, digital transformation is not about buying hardware, software, or solution, but really having that bold leadership and strategy formulation to be able to think big, start small, and I would add scale fast. And at this point, I also want to thank Timothy, who has been steadily supporting Bee Hia behind the scene. There's a reason why Timothy is hiding behind a mask. Yeah, you all heard what Bee Hia said. Okay, I would now like to prepare our next speaker. Ling is the Senior Assistant Director from the Sector Digitalization and Transformation Department of National Council of Social Service. And to date, SDT, which is the short form for the department, has supported more than 200 social service agencies in tech adoption under Tech and Go. That was specially set up in September 2020 to help the social service sector transform digitally. Now, before I pass the time over to Ling, please allow me to add that you may send us your questions in the chat, and I'll pick them up to moderate during the panel discussion. And if there are questions related to Tech and Go, the team is here and they will quickly respond to them in the chat session itself. Okay, so with this, I would now like to hand over the time to Ling. Over to you, Ling.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ling from Tech and Go team in NCSS. So very happy to be here sharing with you some of the insights that we have gathered from our projects and what we have done in the past and what are the resources available to you. So I think a lot of the lines have been mentioned by the previous speakers like COC, Jonathan, on why the need to change. And I just like to call out the few key points that maybe have not been covered. So as you may know that other than the service users that are turning into digital channels, the workforce are also getting more digitally savvy. So as a result, there's internal and external expectations for charities like yourselves to go digital, right? So there's this pressure, but yet at the same time, we can't, I mean, many charities may say that, oh, some of my service users actually may not be digitally ready. So they have to cater to this special group of service users. So as a result, charities have to stretch themselves to serve the tech-savvy ones as well as the non-tech-savvy service users. So it can be quite a challenge. We understand it's not easy, so that's why the Tech and Go team is here to help you. So how do you get started on digitalization? Allow me to share another perspective in addition to what Bee Hia and Jonathan have shared. So recently we have rolled out the industry digital plan for social services some 2 weeks back, as many of you may have seen in the press. You can check out the IDPSS in the link below, and my colleague Jazo would have typed in the link for you to access. So first of all, it is very important, like what Bee Hia say, you need to get the systems to talk to each other, right? You need to also take care of the cybersecurity and data protection, like what Jonathan mentioned. Why is it so? It's like, imagine that you have a team of people, right? You need to get the teams to talk to each other to be effective as an organization. So likewise, the systems should be talking to each other in order for your organization to optimize technology. Of course, not forgetting to safeguard all this data and all, right? So that's the first focus area that I need to work on: secure integrated solutions and infrastructure. Next, it's very important to make sure that your service delivery, it can be serving the religious followers or the arts followers, etc. So we must take into consideration how to make it easier for the service users to access and use your services. All right, so it's important to adopt a person-centered approach. Next, charities can actually consider working with the community and partners to actually get more resources, right? In addition to government funding, to see how to scale up the digitalization efforts. So it could be the volunteers, corporate volunteers coming in to support your IT team, or it can be the donors donating for your digitalization causes, etc. Right? Then for the fourth focus area, we have data proficiency. So why is it important to harness on data? Is because digitalization makes it very easy for you to collect data. And data, as many of us know it, is the new goal for the era. And to optimize it, you must really make sure that you analyze to make decisions for your service delivery and operations planning. And last but not the least, of course, like what Bee Hia said, it is very important to actually work on the digital skills of the workforce as well as the leadership. So I'll touch on a bit more in the next few slides. Okay, to actually achieve focus area 1, we should have the integrated solutions that are secure. So how do you do that? Many of us are familiar with Microsoft Office, etc., Zoom. So all these have been accelerated by the COVID-19. So I won't go into that in detail. And a common function in many charities are donor management, volunteer management, case management, and website. And for some of us, they manage centers, center-based, you have center management. So all these will form the backbone for you to engage your stakeholders, which are very essential in the new normal, right? And of course, we have the accounting and human resource management system to support your corporate function. And many of us are maybe funded by the government, or need to report to COC or etc. for the governance side. So we really need to take care of the reporting and try to make it automated, because it's a monthly affair for many of us, right? So we need to make sure that these are planned out in as you adopt technology. So this reporting could be embedded in the systems that you adopt, or it can be a separate data analytics tool to help you to analyze data. And of course, we have cybersecurity. As mentioned in earlier presentations, firewalls and all, is really to protect different forms of cyber attacks from the hackers. Yeah. So this will found the foundation. Moving on, a more interesting piece. And again, many have been touched on by Jonathan and Bee Hia. So the first row of solutions, many of you are familiar because of COVID. We have to change our payments, our consultation, or our production to online, right? So all the top 5 are actually accelerated by COVID. As for the technology on the bottom, they are also coming up. We have chatbots that can attend to customers' inquiries and scheduling 24/7. It can also be used actually back end to actually help your staff with certain policy inquiries as well. For robots, it has been commonly used during COVID to sanitize places, disinfect places. As well, it can be used for learning and therapy interventions. Next, we have the learning management and gamification. I think it was mentioned earlier that AR, VR can be used to engage clients with dementia to help them jog their memory. Likewise, it can be used to engage persons with disability to help them with their daily living, to teach them skills on that. Yep. And of course, maybe it can be used to teach your volunteers on how to engage your service users, etc. Right. Internet of Things, would like to share that you could actually use it to monitor the health, well-being of your clients or service users. And it can be used to actually manage your facilities, to highlight any need to actually maintain or repair certain hardware or software. Yeah. So it can be used in that manner. And of course, we have the facial recognition, video analytics to actually help with medication dispensary. And of course, with the Olympics, video analytics can actually be used for smart officiating, which is like using AI to actually do the refereeing, or smart replay that you can actually see the players kick the football at a certain angle, things like that. And for those in social service sector, you can actually use it to detect emotions and potential behavioral issues in clients. Oh yes, I need to mention that for the arts and the religious, live streaming and media production is really up and coming. And that's something that all of us can actually consider. And even for donation, online fundraising as well. Okay. Moving on, we have the digital skills guide. So we have listed out the list of courses that all the way from leaders to generalists to specialists can take for digital skills. So it's very important that the leaders have a good understanding of the strategy to drive the changes in your organization. And digitalization actually starts from the leadership, right? And it's also important for the generalists to actually have a good understanding of how digitalization can help in your work, right? It can be like digital payment, cybersecurity, etc., so that you can be part of the digital workforce. For the specialists, I like to call out the marketing team, the fundraising team. You should actually go on to the search engine marketing, search engine optimization courses, etc., to really help you to do online fundraising. Okay, how do you get started? I would encourage all of you in the room to check out the digital roadmap assessment. Although it is currently tailored more for SSAs, social service sector, but many of the foundational aspect of it may be relevant to your charity. So do check it out to help you expedite that planning for your digitalization. So what can you do? Again, as mentioned in the earlier slides, you could actually work on the 5 focus areas to build the digital foundation and to work on the services, right? And if all that you cannot remember, please check out the NCSS Tech and Go Hub for more digital solutions and funding programs. Okay. So maybe I can take the next few slides to bring you through what Tech and Go charities offer. So other than tech subsidies, which I'll be touching on in the next few slides, we do have workshops that bring to you tech demos from vendors so that you can have a good understanding of the possible technology that can help you in your work. And then we have curated courses that can help you build the digital skills. And last but not least, the consultancy. I must highlight that we are in the midst of doing the procurement, appointing the consultants. So do look out for our updates, and potentially we are looking at October to avail the advisory and consultancy to help you with your digitalization. Okay, so what's new? And how is it different from the Tech & Go SSAs? Okay, so as shared by Caroline, since September last year, we have launched the Tech & Go Tech Hub for social service agencies that are our members, the NCSS members. So very happy today that less than a year later, we can actually extend Tech & Go Hub to charities that are not NCSS members. So the Go Digital here will sort of make the offering complete for non-member charities to have access to higher funding amounts to adopt large-scale specialized IT solutions. And on top of that, we are giving fully funded technical advisory, which is similar to the SSAs, as well as digital implementation consultancy and digital strategy planning. They are funded at 80%, capped at 40K. And of course, this will complement the existing Start Digital, which we also know as VCF, ICT grants. It has been around for many years. So these two will go hand in hand to help the charities adopt technology in a bigger way. In the meantime, you may get comparable quotes, right, for the solution that you're thinking of. And if it's more than 6,000, please give us 3 quotations. If it's below 6K, you just need 1 quotation. So there'll be some supporting documents that you need to provide. Will be the quotations as well as supplementary forms. And for this, we are getting the charities apply through the Form SG, right? Yeah, so you can check out the links to our to this Form SG in our website. Okay, and I would just like to shout out that we will be organizing Tech Up Fridays, which is our webinars to showcase the tech demos. So do look out for that. Otherwise, you can check out the past series of Tech Up Friday demos at the Tech & Go website. Right. One thing I wanted to highlight is that for this grants, the funding disbursement is at 80% once the funding agreement is signed. So it's because we recognize that the funding is much higher level and some of the charities may struggle with the initial cost. So we're giving the 80% seed funding. And then once it's completed, 5 months after the completion, you should be submitting your claim to get the 20%, right? Okay, I'll move on. Now, when to apply? The application period is opening next month, which is a couple of days later in August. So you can actually start shopping around for the quotations that for the technology you're interested in. And the funding outcome takes about 8 weeks, and you can look forward to the funding outcome in October for the first application window. And the rest will, as listed here, you can, it's actually a quarterly application window. Yep. Okay, so do take action today because the funds are limited. And this slide actually shows the testimonials from the SSAs that have benefited from Tech & Go, ranging from how the tech demos under the Tech Up Friday has helped them, how the tech subsidy has supported them in adoption, yeah, etc. Okay, so thanks very much, Mercy Relief and AMP for the testimonials. Okay, so this is just part of the team. Our team is much bigger and we are all waiting for you to give us an email at techandgo@ncss.gov.sg to see how we can help you in your digitalization journey. All right, thank you very much. Back to you, Caroline.
Thank you, Ling. Thanks so much for that comprehensive presentation about the resources available. I hope that for now we all have a better understanding on what we can tap on, whether it is technology solutions or consultancy services, and more importantly, the Tech and Go team is here to support you. Yeah. May I just invite all of you to give a round of applause using the reaction in Zoom to our three speakers. So right now is to move on to our next segment, which is the panel discussion. And we are very privileged to have NCSS CEO Ms Tan Lee San to join us as one of our speakers, together with Bee Hia and Jonathan on the panel. A warm welcome to all our panelists. Now, to get us started, may I invite Ms. Tan to share with everyone and to deliver for us your introductory remarks and perhaps your reflection after hearing from Jonathan as well as from Bee Hia.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I think we're running out of time, so I'll try to keep it brief. We've had such wonderful presentations. So I should also mention that I'm here, as a representative of the Charity Council. I thought I better mention that since Commissioner is still around and I was invited by Charities Unit. Of course, my experience is mostly with the social service sector, but I think, much of it is applicable to the rest of the charity sector as well. Just want to thank, Jonathan for a very clear and simple introduction to the issue of digitalization. And, Bee Hia, I first heard the Food from the Heart story last year when I visited, and I was hugely impressed by it, as many of you are, as we can see from the chat. And I think, it's such a bold vision and yet so practical. And I think it totally debunks the myth that digitalization is only for big, well-resourced charities, but that really small charities can also show us the way and show us what's possible. Maybe just very quickly, I just wanted to maybe share 3 points to really reinforce what Jonathan and Bee Hia spoke about. And also drawing from our experience in helping the social service sector digitalize and our own NCSS digitalization experience. So number 1 is really this idea of be clear about where you are and where you want to go and why. I think I can't emphasize that enough. In our industry digital plan, there's a lot of resources there. We also map out, the different sorts of enterprise solutions, user solutions, data capabilities, and so on. And you can adopt all, but may or may not move the needle if it doesn't address your pain points, if it doesn't speak to the mission of your organization. So I think it's really important to know, what are your objectives, what is your strategy, and then, adopt the right technologies that you need. The second key point is about really engaging your people, developing capabilities and building up the internal culture. I think Bee Hia put it very well when she said that actually it's really much more about people management than it is about technology management. And a few aspects to that. I think one is, you can build up the capabilities, and Ling did share, some of the skills that you may want to consider for the different types of people that you have in your workforce. And then, you can also look at SkillsFuture website to find the courses that are supported by SkillsFuture credit. But perhaps arguably more important than the hard skills is really this softer aspect of culture and mindset. And I think change management, constant communications is really important. And, the people have to feel that this is something that will make their lives better. And just to give an example, I have a team in NCSS that does talent management for the sector. And they on their own were motivated to, come up with a Sunray portal, and it was a long journey over 3-4 years, numerous setbacks along the way, but they saw how it can make their lives better. It can really cut out a lot of manual processes. It can also make life better for our talents who are out there in the sector. And they persevered, and finally the portal has been launched, and they've now gone on to, create chatbots and so on. And sometimes it can be very simple things, quick wins. So another example, we have a digital business card in NCSS. It was something fun, it's something really easy to do, but it gives people something to talk about. They can impress their friends, and these sorts of low-hanging fruits allow us to create that momentum, to do the much harder stuff of redesigning your workflows, replacing your legacy systems. So engage your people, create that culture. I think that's a really important point. Third and final point, maybe not so much mentioned just now, is about building an ecosystem of partnerships and collaboration. So a lot of the tools that you see in our IDP, it is built on that idea of shared resources. We don't reinvent the wheel. We leveraged off a lot of IMDA's SME School Digital, Enterprise Singapore's productivity solutions. iShine Cloud also provides solutions for the charity sector. Also, in a lot of the projects that we support for the sector, we do emphasize a lot on collaboration. So we have a few SSAs who want to, for example, experiment with artificial intelligence to triage clients, to understand, how risky is someone who calls in. Are they really in a crisis? Are they at risk of jumping into the river, or are they just looking for someone to speak to that night? So AI can really help do some of these things, but it doesn't make sense for many different charities to be doing the same thing. So we have brought charities together who are interested in many of these solutions. But besides collaboration within your sector, whether it's the arts sector or the sports sector, really also collaborations beyond our sector. So one of the examples that we have been sharing a lot is New Hope Community Services together with JP Morgan. And JP Morgan, has basically adopted New Hope as their, charity partner. And it's a long-term relationship, and they basically sort of play CIO for New Hope, helping them with their digitalization roadmap, their transformation roadmap, as well as, refurbishing laptops for their users and so on. So this idea of strategic partnerships, finding corporates who are willing to partner you, share the expertise, I think that's something that we want to promote far more going forward. So yeah, let me stop there. And I think we want to leave some time for questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Tan. Thanks for that. I actually have two questions that I picked up from our chat sessions that our participants have indicated for Bee Hia and Jonathan. But I thought as I pose the questions to each of you, please feel free to jump in. Let's make this organic, and really be able to draw on each of your experience and expertise that will be useful for everyone here today in today's webinar. Okay, this question is for Bee Hia. It was from one of our participants who actually asked about digital renewal. So the question is, does your plan, the Food from the Heart plan, do you plan ahead for digital renewal, or is it your take that it is better to use solution until it is no longer used anymore? And later, after Bee Hia responded, Jonathan or Ms. Tan, please feel free. Lisa, please feel free to jump in. Yeah, Bee Hia, you go first.
When we actually plan the digital journey, we are not trying to solve yesterday's problem. We're actually trying to solve future problems. So the solutions that we look at are going to work for us for a few years. And within these few years, we believe technology and people's habits and how people accept digital solutions would change. The profile of beneficiaries will also change, and therefore it's always work in progress. There's never an end point in the journey, and once you start, that's just a start, and every day is a new start. Because at the end of the day, really, if you look at our beneficiaries, especially for those of us in this sector, those who are now 60 would probably have some kind of a smartphone, would probably have access to Facebook. They probably know that they want to post pictures there. They want to know WhatsApp, how to send out pictures and all that. And 5 years' time, they'll be 65. Those who are now in the 70 will be 75. And therefore, the profile of the people we serve will change. The landscape will change. And therefore, the solutions must stay relevant and must change. And therefore, there's never an end point to this. Yeah.
Thanks, Bee Hia. So it's important to get started and build that virtual cycle that keeps the momentum going. Yep, very good. Jonathan and Lisan, would you like to add? Lisan, I see you wanted to add on something.
No, I agree with Bee Hia. I think, with technology, it's a moving target, right? And you constantly have to look out for actually what's relevant to your sector, what's relevant to your organization. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Bee Hia, there is a follow-on question about different platforms and the challenges of integration. And I think you said it very well, right? It is not a discrete solution, but at the end of the day, how do you integrate all the solutions so that the output in terms of the reports is one that can give a very good picture for decision making? Yeah, so specific to this question. Yeah, sorry.
When we're talking about integration, right, there are some things that just can't be integrated. Like, for example, our system, Udu system, is a warehousing system where we actually look at donation in kind, the food that goes out, right? That cannot be linked to, say, a HR module, right? So there are systems that are just separate, but there are systems that are actually similar. So what we did was we integrated what was useful, like, for example, the food. So we actually track, for example, if you donate a can of baked beans, right, where will the baked beans move, right? From the sorting to checking to shelving to packing to going to the distribution point. So we actually track the movement of the can of baked beans. And then where is it that you need to cut in your systems to actually capture that movement and that information. So not all systems must be integrated. Some systems do exist on their own. So there's no need to force everything together. But when you set up to do a system, you must remember where are the connecting nodes and where are the possibility that you want to look at it. For example, donor and volunteers. We had a system that was capturing volunteers, Salesforce. We also have a system, DAF, that captures donors, or the other way around, I can't remember. But the two systems basically could not talk to each other. But as we work, we trace, say, volunteer A comes in. What is the journey of volunteer A? So volunteer A may come into packing, warehouse. Volunteer A may also go down to distribution center. Volunteer A may also be a bread runner who collects bread. Then volunteer A may also donate money and then becomes a donor. And then halfway along the journey, donor A may have gotten married, so cannot volunteer and then become a donor throughout. So when you actually look at the system, you need to see who are you tracking, and therefore the two programs must talk to each other because a donor can be a volunteer can be a donor, or they can be both. They are permeable. And therefore, when you actually look at the technical solutions, that is what we'll describe to the system provider, that these two information must interface together. So that's when you decide what must talk to each other, what need not talk to each other.
Maybe just to add, so I think when you talk about integration, there's a stock problem and a flow problem, right? So I think in terms of the flow, right, I guess we just have to be very mindful whenever we are designing new systems to make sure that they're interoperable with other things that we already do, have APIs and so on. But I think the more difficult issue is the stock problem, right? The legacy systems and the legacy data sets that we all have today. And I think it's not trivial. I mean, we do, support several multi-service social service agencies, who have databases that reside in different locations, in different places, with different sets of clients. We do, support SSAs who want to, and charities more generally, through the VCF ICT fund, who want to link up systems and to have, advisory and consultancies to help you do that. It's not a trivial issue, and I don't want to oversimplify it. I think within NCSS, we ourselves also struggle with many legacy systems. And often, we do have to ask the hard questions of actually what are data fields you want to keep, what are data fields that actually you don't need anymore. There are issues around sort of redesigning workflows as well. So it is, but it is worth I think the investment of time and effort, because, going forward, we've all talked about how important it is to really have good data of our clients in order to understand the trends, in order to anticipate issues in the future and to better serve clients. Yeah.
I think just to add on about legacy problem, we actually had a database of more than 10,000 volunteers. But there was different responses every time we send something out. So what we did was, while planning, we actually did something. We've got interns in to help us with engaging this 10,000 over base, a simple form for them to send back to us, emails, and we make a point, the cut-off point. Those who respond would come into our engagement, future engagement. Those who did not, we sort of just kept it there as and when they come back. So I think the leadership must be bold enough to say enough is enough, legacy is legacy. You may want to keep it in your library, in your archive, but you really need to move on with those who want to continue with you. So there might be points like this where difficult decisions must be made, but you really need to just cut off the excess. If not, you just can't move. The baggage will just hold you back. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Bee Hia. Thank you, Lisan. Now, I have two more questions and we'll wrap up the panel discussion. And I want to invite Jonathan to help chip in with these questions. Now, the first question relates to digitalizing services for a charity organization who provides animal-assisted learning. How can they go about digitalizing their services where the emphasis is on hands-on experiential learning, face-to-face experiences for the beneficiaries? And because of COVID, they're unable to do so at this juncture. And I'm sure Jonathan would have ideas and solutions given his various involvement. Jonathan, over to you.
I think there are two opportunities here. The first is actually what to do during this period of time where things are kind of slowing down. And I think what's important is with the work that you do, it's about building your profile, telling your stories. I think you do a lot of meaningful work with animal therapy, and we don't see those stories too often. Spend time to build your digital profile. It's a good time to build content strategy, whether it's about video, creating videos, creating testimonials, and getting these stories out there through the online platforms. The second possibility will be in terms of engagement of your beneficiaries. I think that doesn't have to stop. You can still use technology, to bring some of these. I know you did a lot more direct contact type of situations. I'll give you an example. One of my students, she works for the Alzheimer's Disease Association, ADA. And when COVID hit, she used to run the Memories Cafe project, and they would cater to 20 to 30 families coming each week. They'll be engaged them with musicians, performers, dancers, and the idea is to stimulate the people with dementia, cognitively, socially. And when COVID came, suddenly all this had to stop. So when she brought it up to me, basically, I said, hey, we don't have to actually stop it. Why don't we engage them using streaming? So we actually helped her create a whole process. And we actually brought the Memories Cafe online. And of course, initially, we weren't sure, are we going to be able to still effectively, engage these people with dementia effectively, with internet connectivity in between. But we did it as a trial, and we went on for 2 months, and now it's actually gone on, permanently. And we found that the beneficiaries were still engaged. As the performers performed, we live streamed it into their homes. Some of them were watching on tablets, some of them watching on TV screens, computers. We had feedback from one family where the lady, the mother, was so engaged in the process, she was actually touching the screen, of the face of the performer, because she was still feeling, that connection with that performer. And using the chat function, we were able to find out who was actually watching, and then the performers would call out the names of the people who were involved. So it went from 20 to 30 families who were impacted before, and now the live streams are impacting 300, 400 families. So, using technology, it's not something that we are forced to change and it's a second choice, but it can actually improve the service delivery. So I would suggest, you look into live streaming as an alternative. Whether it works or not is something probably you have to test, whether you can still get that connection between the animals and the beneficiaries. But I think that I'm hopeful, actually. I'm actually quite positive that you will see some positive reactions to something like that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Now there's just one last question, and we will wrap up the panel discussion. While I pose this question to Jonathan, if Bee Hia and Lisa would like to add, please feel free to do so. Okay. Now this question is regarding blockchain, because Jonathan talked about blockchain in his first presentation. So the question is, besides using blockchain for digital currency donation, any other blockchain application use case for charity organization? Jonathan, do you know of any?
I guess it's emerging now. I mean, the main thing here is that when you push the data management or the processes management out into this open source type of environment, there are going to be pros and cons. I think there are already people who are criticizing it, saying that yes, there are benefits, but there are also other downsides to it. The main thing here is that I think it allows transparency. It allows us to actually because we're talking about huge amounts of money moving through, and then there's always the question of where are funds going. And I think that the main benefit now is to use that as part of the transparency measures, as part of how a charity can show responsibility, I think, to the donors and the community. I think there are a lot of, I guess, horror stories when it comes to management of funds. So that's, I think, would be the biggest benefit that I can think of. But again, these are all just coming out. There'll be more users as we go, and more functionalities as we start moving into the space. I mean, it's just like AI, for example. We can see some users today, but it will only grow as we start to incorporate these technologies into the operations of the different organizations.
Yeah. Thanks, Jonathan. If I may just add on to your response, it's not yet in Singapore for the use of blockchain, but I've seen how charity in other countries make use of blockchain as a digital ID for refugees. So very much like what Bee Hia said about using QR code, they use the blockchain solution as almost like an equivalent of a unique identifier for each of the refugee in the refugee camp when they claim for vaccination, medication, or food resources. Yeah, so these are some of the applications out there. Thank you very much. And before we conclude, I was just wondering if I could invite each of our panelists to just add one sentence, to encourage all of our charity participants here today in our webinar, because clearly digitalization coupled with the day-to-day operations is a very heavy burden for many of us. If you could just share an encouraging note for each one of our participants here. Perhaps we could start with Bee Hia, Lisan, and Jonathan. Ladies first, Bee Hia.
Just do it.
Just do it. Thank you.
Just do it. Yeah. Yeah, I think
Okay.
It's not. I think a dinosaur like me is also able to do it. I think anyone can do it. I'm quite a low threshold, so I think it takes a team to do it. Find the people whom you can work with, and work as a team. Find peer support. That's important. You can, so just do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Lisan, over to you.
Thank you. I think digitalization carries so much promise and so much potential. But if there's one thing I want to say, is that high tech doesn't mean no more high touch. If anything, high tech allows us to be even more high touch, because it allows us to, free up time, for us to do more valuable work, for us to really reach out for the social service sector, our beneficiaries, our service users, for arts and so on, your audiences and so on. There's really so much potential. So I actually like Bee Hia's end tagline, think big, start small. And then Caroline, of course, you added scale fast, or in public sector, we actually say act fast. So think big, start small, act fast. Thank you.
Okay, I think my last line would be to not let fear freeze you. And I think technology is there not to make things difficult for us, but to actually help us. And the best way forward, I think, is to be inclusive, to include everybody into it. We've proven that the elderly are not going to be they're not going to find a liability in not knowing technology. They're actually going to be very quick to pick up technology, and they're going to be equally a contributor as all of us in this transition process.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bee Hia. Thank you, Lisan, and thank you, Jonathan. Please, may I invite all of you to just give them a round of applause in the meeting reactions. I've learned so much by just listening to all three of them, as well as from Ling earlier on, and I trust it has been also rewarding for you. Please also join me to thank Azam, who has been working so hard throughout. Thank you for putting all their reactions into Zoom. Now, before you go, I just want to say a few things about the resources available, and we'll make sure that we'll circulate this for all of you, okay? You can scan these QR codes to access the information about the Go Digital Kit and the VCF funding. And also, the call for submissions for the Charity Transparency and Governance Award is open. Details are available here, but also do check out the link for the specific details, and you notice that there are prize monies for winners in each of the categories. To do well in the Charity Transparency Award and Governance Award, you will have to demonstrate your understanding of the Code of Governance and the Charity Transparency Framework. So please peruse them carefully. And if you haven't attended our certificate in high performing charities that we conduct jointly with the Commissioner of Charities, please do sign up for the certificate course. I can't help but have to share something with you. I want to take this opportunity to introduce to you the Graduate Diploma in Organisation and Leadership for Social Change. Through this graduate diploma, you will learn and also apply the management skills. It is in a safe learning space that our faculty will facilitate the networking and the shared purpose for collective impact. You notice how through a learning community, you've actually draw a lot of wisdom from your colleagues or your classmates, in the program. On top of that, we also enhance contextual learning, where we invite experts in the field to share their insights and their experience. So with knowledge, skills, and collaboration, this graduate diploma will enable you to drive transformation in your respective areas. So within this graduate diploma, which is called the Graduate Diploma in Organisation and Leadership for Social Change, there are two graduate certificates: the Graduate Certificate in Organisation and Leadership for Non-Profits and the Graduate Certificate in Leading Social Transformation. The application is open for the January 2022 intake, and I'll leave you with the link as well as the QR code to download the details. So with this, we have finally come to the end of today's webinar. It's been a very engaging session, and I thank all of you for your engagement and also for your interaction and your immediate feedback. That is very helpful for our organizers as well as for all the speakers. Your voice matters. Please, again, take some time to give us your feedback using this link or the QR code here. So until we see you again, goodbye. Stay safe. Bye-bye.